March Madness, NFL style, about to begin. Eddie Garrison, good morning to you. I'm Kevin Bowen. We are back. Colts Corner with myself. That would be Kevin Bowen. We are taping this, smack dab into what will be legal tampering next week. And if Chris Ballard is indeed a man where words lead to different actions, Eddie, we're going to be kind of busy next Monday and Tuesday. Obviously, we'll see how it all comes together, but the Colts have not taken part in an active manner in the early days of free agency, certainly that first week of free agency, but the words certainly sound different this offseason. We'll rank the needs. That's what we'll do on today's podcast, kind of an annual post-combine early March, I should say, focus on the podcast. So we will do that as we are about to enter the first big part of what this offseason is here on the NFL calendar. Eddie, how are you?
I'm great. You think it's March Madness. I think it's the start of the baseball season in 3 weeks. So glad we both have something to look forward to.
March is, I love May, certainly, in this city, but boy, March is, I think it's my favorite month of the year. I am still, I think, in the age group and the generation. I don't know, Eddie, you are, 10 years younger than me, 8 years younger than me?
I am 26, turning 27.
So, yeah, I'll turn 36 this year. So, I still think I'm in the age group of, in 49 states, it's just basketball, but this is Indiana. Like, I'm still a sucker for that. Yes, I cover the NFL. I get that it's the 1,000-pound gorilla, and obviously I love football. My wife would argue I probably love it too much, but, boy, there's just something about basketball. It just offers so much nostalgia for me. So that is what I am all about. And I can't wait. But nonetheless, again, the NFL's version of March Madness will get underway here. Dane Brugler, you think we'll throw that in the pod? Is that the plan?
Yeah, we'll throw Dane Brugler in toward the end before Twitter questions.
Okay, we had him on at the Combine last week. So, again, that was, Thursday, I think, at the Combine, just to give a little bit of a date on that, if anything of it sounds a little outdated. But Dane Brugler, draft analyst from The Athletic, who I believe had Colston Loveland to the Colts in his latest mock draft. A lot of hype, I think, around the Michigan tight end, a little younger, probably more of a receiving-centric of a specialty. Is there some growth in his game, and can NFL teams tap into that? We had Matt Miller, the draft analyst, on from ESPN on our show earlier this week, and he mentioned Mason Taylor as an additional first-round tight end. He had 3 first-round tight ends and 7 starter tight ends in this draft class. So I think that will be, probably as we transition more into April, how do you tap into that draft depth at that position? Because by all accounts, it seems to be there.
Trade back, question mark?
Now you sound like Chris Ballard's old words. Before we get into ranking the needs, I'm glad you brought up that. Ballard's words sounded differently free agency-wise, not draft-wise. I want to make sure we reiterate that. Like when I heard the 3 different periods of the offseason back at Ballard's season-ending press conference in January, defensive approach, free agency, and draft. Okay, what sounded differently? Again, free agency, that to me sounded like, boom, that's a makeover. Draft sounded like, nope, I'm good with what I'm doing. I've got the same clothes in my closet, and I'm going to keep on bringing them out. Defense sounded like, I would say probably a mix of the two. Like, yeah, I think we need to do something differently. And obviously they hired Lou Anarumo, and, that was certainly a change from Gus Bradley. So, so far, defensively is the only thing we have to evaluate. And I would say the words match the actions. Now comes free agency, and we'll find that out next week.
Is that a cup of Joe over there?
Cup of Joe.
I never see you drinking coffee.
These Tuesday nights with hoops, man, I usually go second cup at some point. IU Oregon at 9 tonight. If I'm making it to 11, brother, I need a little in me. So, yeah, I'm not a big Joe guy. I'm a man of ritual, though, and routine. I'm obsessed with it. And so I do a morning coffee. I don't know if it really works or not. And then here I am.
The best way to tell if it works or not by not having it the next morning, and next thing you know, you have a big-ass headache.
I know, and I just don't want to play that game. But when Max Bones is yelling at me at 2 a.m. to, give me my baby, Owie, I'm like, oh, man, he's got to hold it. He's got a baby cousin named Owen. He's got to get that in his crib. Butler, he's got to move his Butler Bulldog to the other side of the pillow. Yeah, not a lot of sleep last night. So Joe is the name here on this March 4th morning.
Let's dive into the Colts positions of need. This is available at 1075thefan.com right there on the homepage. It's the 4th story on our website. Kevin, starting with safety, number 1.
Let me start here. It's the closest needs list I've ever done. I think it's very hard to separate them, Eddie, and I'm curious your thoughts as we move along with this list. Right here off the bat, I mean, I probably think tight end, given Anthony Richardson's presence, deserves to be right up there, but then I look at the present and the future at safety. I think about how critical that is to a Louis Anarumo defense. I think about the amount of big plays that, you can survive without a tight end more so than you can survive without a safety, I guess is kind of how I would summarize it. Now, granted, the Colts haven't had a great tight end play, and look at their offense lately. So it's really difficult, I think, to create a list here in 2025 with this team. But I'm going to say safety. I look at the present, I look at the future, and that's where I look at safety. Obviously, Julian Blackmon's situation. Remember how weird that free agency was last year, Eddie?
Yes.
Lasted till April. And the safety market in general was very weird. Now, you will see safety, corner, linebacker, all of them I think have, and we'll see about the franchise tag deadline today. I mean, the reason why we're recording this Tuesday morning, I don't expect the Colts to use the tag, so I don't see the need to worry and wait about that. But like Minnesota, for example, what about Byron Murphy? If they're not tagging Sam Darnold, are they tagging Murphy? If not, that's another corner that could enter the free agency mix that creates some depth there. So it actually, I think, is a decently deep class in the secondary.
It is. And it's getting deeper, too, with the Eagles releasing Darius Slay yesterday.
Yeah. So I will start with safety as my biggest need.
Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious what the top 2 needs are. It's just a matter of how do you view them in terms of importance of roster building and mechanics or whatever. Number 2, tight end. Obviously, the Colts have Drew Ogletree, Jelani Woods, and Will Mallory as their 3 tight ends on the roster, but Kylan Granson and Jelani Woods are free agents.
Yeah, I think this is worth pointing out of, yes, you are spot on there of like, you could flip these 2. Now, tight end wise in free agency, it's not a great group. I mean, you got the Johnson kid from the Saints, but it's your typical bunch of random 30-year-olds for the most part.
Gesicki.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ertz is a tight end again. Shane knows. I think Shane Steichen knows what a tight end means. Mm-hmm. What a true tight end means.
And you hear, you go back to the end of season press conference with Chris Ballard, and he was talking about they need somebody that can win over the middle of the field, and you can just tell that is the position of need for them, and I think that's what Chris was talking about.
I remember Shane saying before, they had rules in San Diego of the Antonio Gates days. If he's one-on-one, you don't overthink it.
Yeah.
What a tight end like that can mean on third down for you. So, specifically, it's pass-catching tight end. When we get to running back, I'll say that again. Specifically for me, it's the pass-catching running back. Tight end, I mean, I think blocking-wise, they've been okay here with this group, but, production-wise in the receiving game, it hasn't been there. So, flip them. I can certainly listen to people that are like, hey, man, it's all about Richardson. Tight end should be 1. Fine. I'm not going to argue about it, So, safety 1, tight end 2, flip them. Do whatever you want.
Those 2 are 1A, 1B, in my opinion, and right there on the verge of being 1C, but it's not as clear of a need, is cornerback. So, to me, that is number 2.
I like that. Yeah, if you were going to tier them, you would maybe put corner in a tier by itself. It's tier 2.
Yeah.
And again, some depth there. Charvarius Ward. We'll see about Byron Murphy. DJ Reed. Carlton Davis. I mean, there are some corners here. But I look at this also as safety. And I know we did on last week's podcast, but Eddie, what positions do you view as free agency needs? What positions do you view as draft needs? What positions do you view as both? I would say safety and corner could fall into both.
Yes.
Again, you have to treat corner like Juju Brents doesn't play for a football team. You can't bank on anything with him. Now, again, Jalen Jones has had a very nice start to his NFL career. I don't think there's any denying that, particularly with where he was picked. But still, you want to play more press man. Does this alter any of the Anarumo focus? Chris Ballard feels like, you heard it last week when we played the interview, he feels like they've got some of that skill set on the roster. But do they? How much confidence do they have in that? And I don't think you can ignore Kenny Moore's 30. Kenny stayed very healthy last season, but the backup nickel, Womack was certainly a nice find, but still, that would be a question that I'd have. So I like how you described that. I'd probably put corner in its own tier before we get to the next few positions.
It would be major need, safety, and tight end, need, corner, would be nice, pass-catching running back.
Yeah. Okay. I like that.
More of a want than a need.
Yeah. Or yeah, sure. Okay. I'm with you.
Yeah, so number 4 would be your pass catching running back.
Yeah, I mean, and again, in the last 4 drafts, you look at it, Eddie, they just haven't spent a lot. Evan Hull would be it. And he really hasn't done much, if anything. So, over the middle of the field, how many times have I said you have got to find easy in the passing game better?
Too many times.
Just a methodical, boring-ass nature to it. It's not going to lead off, what's his name, homeboy from the red zone's not going to break in and tell you about the 6-yard dump that, whoever caught, blah, blah, blah. But you know what?
How dare you disrespect Scott Hansen.
Thank you, Scott Hansen. But 2nd and 4 means a whole lot more than 2nd and 10. So how do you find it? And, like, with Taylor, it's not like – I'm totally – 3rd round might be a rich early for me, but, boy, round 4, round 5, I'm totally good with it. And you know what? Round 4 and round 5 running backs, where was Kyron Williams drafted? These guys can turn into starters in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to, I don't think Taylor is walking up the 18th hole, but with running backs, you literally never know. You never know when the 18th hole is here. And, again, a lot of people view Taylor in the scary number category. Let's go back to the Hard Knocks scene last year. You remember Joe Shane, Frank Gore?
Yes.
Talking, and Malky Kawa, right? Taylor's agent, ironically enough. And they mentioned when you get to that number, well, if you add up the Wisconsin rushing attempts for him plus what he's had in the NFL, that number is
creeping up. Yeah.
So, yes, running back, round 4, pass catcher, sign me up.
I know you and I remember it, but what number is it that you're referencing to there, Kev?
Just the outright numbers of carries. I guess I'd have to add it up for Taylor. They said, I think they threw out an age, if I'm not mistaken. I want to say they threw out 27, 28. I tend to like the carry number. So he had 926 at Wisconsin. That is a huge number. 3 years, 926 carries.
He's had 1,228 in the NFL.
So what's that, 2,100?
Yeah, probably.
That's a big old number. So, again, just something to keep an eye
on. And then the final need, I'm surprised this was at number 5 for you, Kev, quarterback.
So you thought higher?
I thought it would be higher, yeah.
Yeah. I guess I'm resigned to the fact that this is Richardson or bust for 2025.
I am too. So
I don't know if I did that correctly, though. That's my thought. Obviously, it's still a need. Just purely off of Flacco and Ellinger are free agents, so you have to do something there. But again, you didn't run it back with Steichen and Ballard to have Daniel Jones be the quarterback or James Winston be the quarterback. Eddie, go back to the Ballard answer. Why is he getting a 9th year? We played it for our audience last week.
It's a good question, Kevin.
When he answers that question, I hear that him and Jim Irsay agreed to this window.
Yes.
With Shane Steichen as a first-time head coach, with Anthony Richardson as the 4th overall draft pick. And then you couple it with this. You guys had Lance Zierlein on from the Combine, and I thought he told a very interesting story. He was standing next to Chris Ballard on the field at the 2023 Combine, and I'm paraphrasing here, but Ballard said to Zierlein, first off, Zierlein said to Ballard, you can't draft that kid, pointing to Richardson. You need to win now. And Ballard said to him, no, I don't. I need to do what's best for the franchise.
Yeah, and if it gets me fired, so be it.
Well, that means a window, right? Mm-hmm. That means a Richardson window, and that's exactly what the Colts are in right now. So I'm also torn on this open competition thing and the validity of it when are you really going to split reps when this kid theoretically is making some sort of fundamental changes in his first ever NFL offseason? First ever healthy NFL offseason, sorry. Is this really going to be a, hey, here's Richardson's day, here's Daniel Jones's day, back to Richardson, last year, they had 12 training camp practices? It's not a lot when you really break it down. No. I get why people are saying quarterback is too low. You're the first person that has said that to me. And you're not wrong. I guess there's a part of me that's like, what realistically can you do there?
Well, I'm not looking at it from the perspective of the comments being made of competition. I'm looking at it from the perspective of the fact that he hasn't been healthy. So you need somebody there because it's almost a matter of if, not, or it's a matter of when, not if.
Yeah, I mean, let's say he has a great
He misses
year.
a game or two.
Let's say he starts 13 games and he goes 8-5. Well, how big are those other 4 games? You go 1-3 and now you're back to 9-8.
Yeah.
And now you're flirting. You go 3-1 and now you're 11-6 and you maybe are winning the division. So it's just a again, it is a need. And I'll say this here and I'll say it a few more times as we go throughout this list, Eddie. It's hard to separate these positions.
Mm-hmm.
It's just I don't remember a year like this where I do this exercise annually. I don't remember a list like this. I certainly don't remember having wide receiver as low as that I have it right now. And then part of me is like, wait, could they use an alpha wideout? Certainly they could use that. Like it just it's a very unusual offseason.
It very well is. And the next 3 positions, Kev, are 3 positions you can put into a hat, I think. And whichever you pull out first, it's like, okay, yeah, I can see that being a need over that position. But you have at number 6, this is a list of 10 positions, linebacker.
Yeah, I don't remember ever having linebacker this high, to be honest with you. And actually in free agency, this might be one of the better position groups of like good age guys too.
Dre Greenlaw is one that sticks out.
Like mid to late 20 guys. Like, I don't think EJ Speed's like a top 10 linebacker in free agency.
No.
And again, I mean, EJ Speed definitely didn't have a great season, certainly. But I don't view EJ Speed as horrific. So I'm curious how Ballard's track record drafting linebackers will play into Anarumo. And Anarumo's a guy that, I mean, he played a whole lot of nickel. So is this a 2-linebacker scheme primarily?
He's had a lot of good linebacker play. He had a lot of good linebacker play in Cincinnati between Logan Wilson, Joseph Asai, and
Jermaine Pratt.
Jermaine Pratt too, yeah.
So I've got linebacker here. Again, they've drafted just extraordinarily well. But you certainly, I mean, if you lose Speed, I mean, what? He's one of your top snap guys from last year. Is Carlisle, just ready for it?
I think Carlisle would fit actually really well in the Anarumo scheme with his history at safety because these linebackers have to be able to cover. With how much he likes to play man.
Think coverage is an issue. So I could see that, but still, I mean, just depth-wise at linebacker, you need it.
Next, you prioritize. I'd like to know how you're splitting hairs between 7 defensive tackle and 8 offensive line.
It's largely depth answers at both. I guess you rotate more on the D line. That probably was why I had it a hair higher. And at some point, I just don't think you can play Buckner and Grover as many snaps as you play them. Mm-hmm. I think at some point the age has got to be acknowledged. Still very quality players, and I think can be. But if you can trim 10 snaps a game off of them, but save them a little bit more, I think that's something that you have to keep in mind. So defensive tackle for me, again, splitting hairs is the right way to put it. Offensive line, again, the Braden Smith domino is going to be absolutely massive to see how that plays out. I kind of view O-line, Eddie, in the veteran depth category. Assuming you re-sign Will Fries, Bortolini, I guess, taking over for Kelly if you view that, and then we'll see about what happens at right tackle. But it definitely needs attention, but I think I'm more in the, go find you some Joe Haggs, go find you some Chris Reeds, go find you some of those types of guys in, free agency is how I would split hairs here with the offensive line.
To me, I look at it as Bernard Ryman was healthy for majority of the season last year besides the concussion, right? He had a concussion this past year?
Yeah, Gonzalez had a couple starts over there, right?
Yeah, because of the concussion. Obviously, Nelson has been durable and healthy for the majority of his career, if not the entirety of it. You're hoping that whomever you play at center, I'm assuming it'll be Tin or Bortolini, unless they have some kind of late night thought of like, oh, let's bring back Danny Penner and have him be the starting center. And then you need a right guard, and then still the status of Braden Smith. Is he coming back? Is he retiring? Is he being released? So there's a chance you're going to need some depth because you don't know how those other guys are going to hold up throughout the course of a 17-game schedule.
Yeah, I think that's pretty well said. Boy, O-line, man, it could look a whole lot different. And it's stunning to me, Eddie, and now that I look at it and I'm about to say it out loud, it makes me sick to a degree that I have defensive end and wide receiver this low.
Mm-hmm. Defensive end 9, wide receiver 10.
I'm like, Kevin, are you an idiot?
I'm sure Ballard's like, what are you going to talk about now, Kevin, huh? Frickin' Bowen saying I need all these wideouts.
Oh, boy. Once again, it's a very tough list for me to separate. Defensive end, I'm already regretting having it this low. Like, are you re-signing Dio? I'm probably more in the re-sign Dio camp than most. I think there's a lot of people that are just like, see ya. And I'm like, wait a minute, he hasn't missed a game in 3 years?
Uh-huh.
He's versatile. Theoretically, his first year was a redshirt year. Yes, he definitely didn't have a good contract year, production-wise, but, like, that's a key rotational defensive lineman who's played a lot of snaps for you. So you let him walk, that means you're banking on Ebukam, age 30, Achilles, Kwity Paye in a contract year. You want to pair up Kwity Paye's production next to Dio Dengbo? It's probably a lot closer and less snaps than you would think. And then I don't want to put too much on Latu's plate still. I still want to bring Latu on, and I thought Latu hit a wall about week 12. Well, you going to throw 200 more snaps on his plate? You know, how does he handle that? So, at defensive end, boy, if you let and I get it. I mean, I think Ballard thinks Adengbo is going to draw, a decent market. And again, we'll have numbers that'll make people disgusted. It's an annual. It's really a ritual in mid-March. People forget that the cap has gone up. Therefore, percentage of the cap is probably how we should view it. Mm-hmm. Like, they'll see the number. I think Spot Rack has Dio at like $16 million a year. And people will be horrified when they see that number. But it's kind of the part of doing business when obviously the cap is going up. So, with defensive end and wideout, let me be very clear. You don't have an alpha. You'd welcome it with open arms. I do think there is a decent cupboard of like, all right, you've gotten home from the long vacation, you look in the pantry and you're like, okay, we can make some dinner here. Mm-hmm. We're not going to make a 5-star dinner, but we can make some dinner. That's kind of how I view defensive end and wideout. Of like, okay, you can make, wideout that top three. I mean, Pittman had 800 yards with a bad back and bad quarterback play, and Downs and Pierce, and again, A.D. Mitchell. I'm not slamming the door shut at all. So again, it's sickening to me that I have premium positions this low, but at some point you've got to allocate. At some point you've got to kind of, all right, yeah, I mean, you've got enough there, but you don't really have much here. Here's Anarumo, all those things. So this is probably the least confident I've ever been.
I wonder,
with ranking the needs,
when the last time the Colts had 3 receivers with over 800 yards.
I feel like that stat has gone around, and it might have happened once in the Manning era, but I don't know if it did. Hasn't happened very often.
No. Do you think if you put Truth Serum in Chris Ballard, he would regret giving Kwity Paye picking up that 5th-year option?
It's a great question.
If it meant losing Dio?
It's a great question. Boy, he loves Dio. I mean, I've said this before. I don't think there's a draft prospect he's loved more than Dio.
I mean, they took him coming off the Achilles.
Oh, and if his scouts would have let him, they would have taken him in round 1. Boy, that's such a good question. He also really likes Kwity. I don't know, man. That's good. That's too good. I might need a 3rd cup of coffee after you just threw that at me.
And then last one being wideout. Yeah.
One thing on Dio is just like, I don't think you can take for granted, Eddie, 0 missed games in 3 years.
Correct.
And versatility.
Mm-hmm.
Trust me, you want a little bit more in the production take. Don't mince my words here, but I can't ignore that. So I get it. Will Fries is probably the one you'd stand on a chair for, and I'm not acting like I'm, going to be doing a, picketing on the circle if Dio walks. But if Dio walks, I mean, that really, and Epicom coming off the Achilles, it's just, it will push, I think, defensive line a lot higher on the need list. That might be the position group I'm most unsure about, and let me explain why. At the end of the season, Ballard pushed back on the D-line, didn't have a good year. He pushed back on that. Mm-hmm. He thought they did. And then I think it was with us. I think I played it last week. I asked him, what positions do you scout differently under Anarumo? And he said D-line first.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so where are we at there? It's always been a big focus for him. He pushes back on it, so I walk out of January thinking, oh boy, he doesn't look at that as big of a need as maybe some others. Well, then you hire this new defensive coordinator, and now he needs a little bit more of a different type of D lineman. So where are we at? I mean, Eddie, if I had to give you trench player or the field with the 14th overall pick, what would you take?
Oh, man.
Trench player, a.k.a. O-line or D-line, or the field at pick 14 for the Colts?
I would have to go trench player because the way I look at it is this.
Because of him?
Well, that, and I think personally, as we've kind of talked about between last week and this week, when looking at like free agency or the draft, when evaluating which position should be addressed where, I think safety is a free agency need just because of Anarumo having the background of him being a DB's coach and a former DB himself. I think he understands and he wants a veteran presence. He wants a quarterback back there that can kind of calm the waters and see everything and have an understanding of the scheme. And to me, I don't think that screams like a Malachi Starks, even though I think Malachi Starks is going to be a very good player. That's why I lean more towards that being a free agent need than a draft need. So I take that off the board at 14. And then it's a matter of, to me, is it going to be an offensive lineman or is it going to be a defensive lineman to fill a hole /need/depth there or tight end? And is Chris Ballard going to want to either A, trade up to get Tyler Boyd, because that's what it sounds like, or B, maybe reach on taking Colston Loveland 14 overall or trade back and get him? So that's why I lean more of the trench play than I do anything else.
I'm nodding my head. Yeah, and there appears to be, tight end wise, obviously there appears to be some pretty good depth there. And again, I mentioned safety and corner in free agency as having some nice depth. I think there's too many times, we'll get into this more with Twitter questions, but what Washington did with Deebo Samuel this week, Eddie?
Dumping him for a 5th pick if you're San Francisco?
Yeah, what Washington, and I should say this, it's not just the Deebo thing, but the Deebo thing was a reminder. What Washington has done in the 2-year cycle with Jaden Daniels could not be more polar opposite than what the Colts have done with Anthony Richardson.
Mm-hmm.
The rookie, and Ballard said this back, I think right after they drafted Richardson maybe, of like, again, it offers you some flexibility. And, obviously walking into that draft, you had a pretty good idea that you were taking a quarterback, in with the 4th overall pick. And, like, when you think about it, like, Matt Gay, Samson Ebukam, Taven Bryan, Flacco, Raekwon Davis, I mean, those are the moves they've made.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not stunning because that's Ballard's MO, but it is stunning. Like, NFL teams with rookie contract quarterbacks do not operate in such a frugal manner as the Colts have done so far. I mean, they've been beyond frugal. I mean, if you looked at the history, Stroud and Jaden Daniels are the two that come to mind, like Houston, Washington right now, and how both of those franchises have operated. Even Tennessee overhauled their defense last year, again, with Levis on rookie contract. And again, I'm not saying like all of it works out, obviously, but that to me is how you have to try and build. You try and create something on the rookie contract for the quarterback. You obviously try to win games, you get to the playoffs, et cetera, et cetera. You hope that by doing that, you then instill confidence into said player, and then when it's time to pay that guy, he becomes Allen Mahomes, Lamar Jackson.
Yep.
He becomes that type of talent that allows you to get into the second contract where now he covers up things. So now Kansas City's like, yeah, we can't pay Tyreek Hill anymore. Okay, he's gone, but what are they still doing? They're still winning. Buffalo, okay, yeah, we can't do the Stephon Diggs thing anymore. What's happened? Well, they still are on the brink of making the Super Bowl. Like, that's kind of how I view it, and the Colts have just operated in such a different manner.
To answer the question earlier, 2004. Last time.
Stokely?
Yeah, Stokely, Harrison, and Reggie.
All over 800?
Yep. And then Edge had 1,500 yards on the ground. Boy, it's weird how similar almost the stat lines are. Like when you look at the top 3 and then the top rusher. But then you look at the quarterback and it's like, all right, 4,700 yards.
Yeah.
Compared to 35, 36.
Yeah, that is a far cry. All right, Eddie Garrison, should we get to Dane Brugler?
Yes, we should.
This is at the Combine again. Just to remind everybody, this is Thursday, our fan morning show. You'll hear my voice. You'll hear the voice of James Boyd. You'll hear the voice of Jeff Rickard. Dane Brugler, NFL draft analyst from The Athletic.
Happy to be awake and at the convention center with you guys. Day 3 of the NFL Combine. James Boyd, Kevin Bowen, Jeff Rickard, and a fourth member of the team right now from your coworker, The Athletic, Dane Brugler, who we were talking about the fact that you do this evaluation combine stuff 365.
Nope.
This has got to be Christmas morning for you players getting on the field now.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, it's such a productive week, and it starts with meetings at the beginning of the week. Then we have interviews going on, and then today, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, actually on the field, which is, the Combine's one big cross-checking exercise. It's a chance to, okay, this guy's got good tape. He looks like a good athlete. Now let's make sure that he is. And we see the way he moves on the field, some of the data points with the 40 and all these other drills. So the Combine for me is this week the most productive week of the entire year.
The Beast.
Which we all have copies of in the room on draft days.
Some people read the Bible. Some people read whatever A.J. Brown reads on the sidelines. I read the Beast. James Boyd, you read the Beast. Dane Brugler produces the Beast. It is worth the subscription for The Athletic, 1,000%. It'll come out in early April. How many long snappers will be in the Beast this year?
I cut it off at 10 just because, I want them to be represented, but I don't want to overdo it.
You're a sick individual.
Yeah, I mean, there's almost 2,000 players total in the Beast, so a lot of people let give them their due, and there's a lot of good stories in there. That's the best part of putting that together, is finding out the journey of these guys. I've got a story that just went up on The Athletic this morning about Siobhan Ravel Jr., corner from East Carolina. He's gonna be a top 50 pick in this draft. Would be a first round pick, maybe a top 20 pick if not for the ACL injury, but just going through the adversities he's had to overcome in his life. He had a horrific car accident in high school. He did not qualify academically for college. They went JUCO route, and then COVID shut everything down. He's got no prospects. He's working at Amazon. Shows up at an East Carolina prospect camp, blows him away, 40-yard dash, vertical, and they tell him, you get your grades up, you got a scholarship spot. Has this breakout 2023 season for ECU. Alabama wants him, LSU wants him, Penn State wants him, everybody wants him. He stays loyal to ECU. September, ACL. Won't be able to work out here, which is a bummer. He would have ran in the 4.3s. But this guy's overcome so much, and so it's really interesting learning about all these guys' journeys. In order to know where they're going, it's fun to learn where they've been. I think that helps shape things as you kind of put the puzzle pieces together.
You can't call yourself a draft nerd unless you are consuming The Beast. That is the voice of Dane Brugler, the author of it, again, coming out on the Athletics website here in about a month or so. Okay, let's get into today. I know workouts will begin. I think from a Colts standpoint, I'm intrigued by the guys that are talking today, because that's tight ends and that's DBs. I kind of look at that as arguably the two biggest needs for the Colts. So play this out with me. Tight end, corner, safety. What do you like as the best depth of those three in this year's draft class?
I mean, it has to be tight end. There will be more corners drafted than tight ends, but relative to what we usually see at those two positions, tight end is just loaded this year. And I think most people know about Tyler Warren and Colson Loveland at the top. Both those, I don't think there's a debate about tight end one. It's just about preference. What type of tight end are you looking for at that point, where Tyler Warren's more of he's not a true Y, but he's more of that traditional Y inline tight end. Colson Loveland is almost more of a receiver. But they both have different strengths, and Loveland gives you the more upside. So it'd be interesting to see which one the Colts would prefer if it came down to those two guys at 15. And then, but you don't have to draft one in the first, because you wait till the second. You have Elijah Arroyo from Miami, big fan of Mason Taylor from LSU, Gunnar Helm from Texas. He's a top 2-round pick all day. He had a phenomenal season for the Longhorns this year. So tight end is absolutely loaded. Usually, I feel like in most years, the answer would be corner. It's always one of the deepest positions. Wide receiver, corner. We always have athletes. This year, we just don't have as many receivers and corners relative to most years at those positions.
So I want to ask you to put your GM hat on for the Colts. Anthony Richardson has been going through the ups and downs. Look at the number 14 spot. Which way are you leaning to perhaps help him get better or maximize whatever might happen in year 3, because we know it's sort of make or break year for him?
it would be a lot. I want to see what it looks like with Tyler Warren in that offense. I want to see what you add such a dynamic but yet reliable. Like he's the dependability factor with him, and the ability to come in right away and make plays. That's something that this offense sorely needs, especially as they figure out, okay, who is Anthony Richardson the guy moving forward? A chance. You don't want to draft to save your job, but I think you want to draft to find answers. And for a guy like Tyler Warren, he's going to help you find answers on offense. He's going to make your offense better. So it's hard not to go in that direction. I think Colston Loveland makes sense too, just because he's got the most upside, but he's ready to go right now. He's not going to have to sit and wait. The speed that he plays with, he was the only redeeming part of watching that Michigan offense last year. It was rough. And the fact that he was still able to be productive, even though he's banged up, even though the quarterback could barely throw beyond 8 yards, it was still fun to watch Colston Loveland go work because he's so dynamic and he catches the ball well. So if one of those two tight ends are there at 14, I think it makes all the sense in the world.
When it comes to the defense for this team, they were just gouged, especially down the stretch. We saw the Giants game where Drew Lock chewed them up, right? And they're not putting pressure on the quarterback. They're not really covering all that great. Chris Ballard has given us the sense that he might be more open to do a lot more free agency than he's done in the past. What's there on defense in this draft in rounds, if they go tight end, rounds 2, 3, 4, what kind of personnel can they expect?
Yeah, and like I said, I don't think corners as deep as past years, but it's still, you're going to be able to find guys in that range. We're talking third round. Jacob Parrish from Kansas State's one of those guys I really like, who's he reminds me a lot of like those Washington corners, the Byron Murphys, the Trent McDuffies, a guy that's maybe not the biggest, but he plays smart. Click and close, just a really, when you think of the competitors at corner, he likes to compete. He likes to mix it up with receivers. So Jacob Parrish, I think he's one of my favorite day 2 type of corners in this draft. He would make a lot of sense. Denzel Burke from Ohio State, probably more in like the 4th round. Once you get to early day 3, I think he would fit. And then safety, we might have a safety in the 1st round, probably with Malachi Starks, maybe Nick Emenwari. But you think about Jonas Sanker in the 3rd round out of Virginia. I think he would fit a lot of what they want to do on defense. There are a couple safeties in this draft that you don't have to spend a premium pick on, but 3rd, 4th round, you can bring them in, let them compete, and I think they help make your defense better.
It's the voice of Dane Brugler, NFL draft analyst for The Athletic. He does outstanding work. You've heard him on our show before. We always appreciate our convos with you, Dane. Let's go local. The Notre Dame prospects are abundant. We'll hear 2 of them speak to the media here coming up in a few. Ben Morrison's got some injury history. Xavier Watts has been a ball hawk. Maybe the Notre Dame prospect or 2 you like the most out of that 8-man group that's here at the Combine.
Okay, so
Riley Mills on the D-line.
Yeah, and it's a shame we won't get a chance to see him work out because I think he's a better athlete than I think he gets credit for. It's a shame, we won't be able to see him work out. With Morrison, how many corners do you know has had 2 hip surgeries before his 22nd birthday? That's tough, especially at corner, that position specifically. But so the medicals, and that's why the Combine exists, right, is the medicals. And so how he does during the medical portion of the Combine will be just crucial to his final draft spot. So just interested to talk to him, see how he's doing. He's kind of been out of sight, out of mind a little bit since he's been injured. And it's a shame we didn't get a chance to see him, especially you factor in Notre Dame's success this year. He could have really helped that defense. But, eager to see him. I'm a big fan of the tight end, too. I think he's
Mitchell Evans.
Right. Yeah. He's better than the production. Had that ACL injury last year, works his way back. You can tell he's knocking off the rust. The passing offense was what it was for Notre Dame this year. And so I think he is better than, and we saw it in the national championship game with what he did against Ohio State. We saw it in flashes this year. He is better than maybe what the stat line would read if you just look at the stats. And I think we talked about the tight end depth. That's a great example of that. Once you get past, it's probably going to be a day 3 pick, 5th round or so. Get a guy like that in the 5th round, that tells you the depth of this group.
Round range for Curtis Rourke?
It's tough with the ACL. he's going to be day 3 somewhere. There are fans around the league that like him 4th, 5th round. Others have him 6th, 7th round. So I think that anywhere on day 3 would not surprise me. It's amazing he was able to play this year on a partially torn ACL, and I know that final game against Notre Dame didn't go nearly the way they wanted it to, but his body of work, I think a lot of people are encouraged by, hey, I can get this guy on day 3 and we can see what we have. I'll take my chances.
So I know obviously you're huge into the draft and, Senior Bowls and things like that this time of year, but how often do you pay attention to what happens after the draft? For a guy like, for example, Alec Pierce, going into, his 4th season, he's kind of, I guess, shown what he's capable of with better quarterback play. At least quarterbacks that can throw the ball down the field.
Right.
For a guy like that versus what you saw on tape at Cincinnati to what you might maybe see now, what do you think of his development?
Yeah, and that's such a big part of my focus is the draft, but you have to understand what's going on in the NFL to know how the draft's going to play out. You want to, first of all, there's the component of understanding what teams are doing and just understanding the trends of the NFL, but then also evaluating myself, understanding, okay, what I get right about this player, what I get wrong, and, what can I learn to get better? And so with Alec Pierce, a lot of what we thought he was at Cincinnati, I think has played out. He's vertical threat. You want him down the field, and we've seen that, quite a few times. It's just, could he develop into being a more down-to-down, reliable receiver? And I think he has shown flashes of that. He has shown times where he's going to help you move the sticks. But I still think we think of him as that true field stretcher, a guy that you want down the field, and he's going to gain a step, and as long as you put the ball out there in front of him, he will go make a play.
One quick follow-up. Is there a player or players where you're like, dang, I was just wrong? Because I think we look at all of your stuff, and I'm not gonna lie, I know you vet it, you take the job seriously, but it's not an exact science, man. Otherwise, you'd be the richest guy in the world.
We could talk all day about my misses, trust me. That's at the end of the day, I feel great about my batting average, but we all strike out at times, and that's to me the best evaluators are the ones that evaluate themselves and understand, hey, I missed on this, but it's not just that I missed; it's why'd I miss? Because that helps you get better at understanding. I'm such a better evaluator of talent now than I was 5 years ago because of that factor. So, we could go position by position and pick a lot of guys, but quarterback's obviously the toughest. I did not see Pat Mahomes' backyard style of football necessarily translating anything close to this level, but he's just different, And Bo Nix last year, liked him, thought he could be an NFL starter, didn't see him going in the top 12 picks, didn't see him leading a team to the playoffs in his first year, but he gets paired with Sean Payton, and that certainly helps. But he was able to do that. And so going back and watching and understanding, okay, what was different about him? Is it strictly a mentality thing? Is it something I missed on the tape? Trying to understand your misses so you correct those in the future is such a crucial part of this.
Dane, thanks for stopping by. We appreciate it as always. One quick thing before you do go, the news of the day, Abdul Carter now has a foot issue.
Yeah.
What does that do, do you think, to the first 6-8 picks in the draft?
Nothing. I really don't think it. As long as it is what. I was talking to Drew Rosenhaus last night about this. It doesn't sound like it's anything that's long term, and as long as it's not anything long term, I don't think it affects any of the thinking. If the teams at the top, they like one of these quarterbacks, that's the direction they're going. If they don't like one of these quarterbacks, they're going to go Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter. I'd be shocked if he gets out of the top 4 picks.
Now, you pulled out the laptop mid-interview, and you made me nervous. Were you updating the long snappers? Were you updating the punters? What were you?
No, I was just worried you were going to ask me about my 8th long snapper, so I had to just make sure I had it right.
I opened up last year's Beast. Guys, he had 324 pages, if I'm looking at this right, over 1,900 prospects. He had 10 kickers, 10 punters, and 5 long snappers.
We got to get better every year, so yeah.
Man, those guys, it's tough to break through because once you become a long snapper in the NFL, those guys stick around for 15, 20 years.
So early April, that's what we're looking at.
That's always the goal. We got all the pro days in March, a lot of the workouts, and then at early April, I want to give people 3 weeks to try to digest everything in there, and so that's I'm getting some anxiety thinking about that's like a month away, but I'll be excited to share it with everybody.
Tell your loved ones that you'll see them in May. You got the Beast to read, baby.
So real quick, the funny thing about Dane is just being at the Athletic, you'll see some of the messages going back and forth, and we have different parts that we'll go through and kind of look at, and they're like, all right, he's updating this, and it's like, the 12th hour before this thing has to go live, and he's still kind of tinkering to give you all the best product. And so you should know, and pretty much in every draft room, whether it's coaches or us in the media, we all like print it or share it or hey, go subscribe now. So I think that's my biggest reason I'm employed, because this guy kind of puts it on his back this time of year.
No, I appreciate it. My favorite part is when you're watching the draft war rooms during draft weekend, and in the background you see it on the table. I'm like, okay, yeah,
that's awesome.
Cool.
Yeah. Thanks for stopping by. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
We'll have you on before the draft too. Sound good?
All right, looking forward to it.
Always enjoy Dane. He is a good dude, and we appreciate his time in what is a very, very busy week. The Beast. Who needs the Bible when you got the Beast?
That's right. You enjoy reading that thing, don't you?
Boy, it's bedside reading, baby.
Is that what puts you to sleep, or?
No. Keeps me up.
I was about to say.
Keeps me wired, man.
Gets you going.
Easy now. That was the voice of Eddie Garrison, in case anybody needed a reminder for that. Eddie, easy transition to Twitter question?
Sure. Easy? Yeah, Nice job. We'll start with Cody. With Lou and his history of liking veteran players, doesn't it make sense for Indy to majorly address the secondary free agency versus the draft? I understand there are some quality secondary players and would be opposed to still adding in the draft, but to me, that has always made more sense. Plus, it gives you more flexibility in the draft and with what you do at 14. Your thoughts?
Cody, thank you for the question. I certainly can see where he's coming from on this, but I would also argue, like, where is the quality youth on defense? Jalen Jones, Nick Cross, Laiatu Latu? Like, is that what we're looking at here? I mean, that's... Again, I'm all for flexibility, as Cody's pointed out, and I said to you, Eddie, earlier in the podcast, give me both in the secondary. Give me a vet and give me a draft pick. I think the present needs are as much in question as the future needs at those spots, but that's where I don't look at 14. I just totally eliminate the defensive side of the ball. Yeah, I know Lou Anarumo's history, and I get the tight end need and all of that, but right now on the side of the building at Lucas Oil Stadium, correct me if I'm wrong, Eddie, you've got Buckner and Kenny Moore up there?
Yes.
And then who's the other two? Is it Taylor and Pittman?
Q.
Nelson, duh. It's Taylor and Nelson. Okay. When Buckner and Kenny come down, what defender goes up?
Well, obviously you're hoping it's Latu.
Sure.
And Zaire?
Right, but I mean, Zaire's kind of in the same age range, as those other guys. So that's where I do look at, you have to start to find that as well. Like, mapping out the offseason, yes, you need a tight end, but you also need to walk away with an impactful defender. I think preferably in the secondary, but that is also a must here over the next month and a half.
Next up is Jamie. You've covered players that could be cap casualties. Is there any player that is untradeable? Could you make a case for trading away any of the top players to save money, like Jonathan Taylor, with a running back heavy draft class?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, everybody's tradable. Yeah, I mean, I come from the thinking, Eddie, there's like 6 untradeable dudes in the entire NFL.
Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
Josh Allen.
Sure. Lamar.
Joe Burrow.
Yeah, I mean, Jaden Daniels probably, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, hate to overreact to 1 year, but yeah, maybe Stroud. If you're in Houston, and you still have that contract.
Jefferson.
That's important. Jefferson, yeah. I'd listen to everything. That's just how I would react to it, because I want to know what you think is expendable on your roster. If you're calling me about Jonathan Taylor, okay, construct something for me.
Yeah.
Okay, now I know that. I might not trade Taylor. Obviously, he's a really quality player, but still, the running back point is a good one. Because as we said earlier in the podcast, Taylor is approaching that fine line. And, is there something to be said for, like, Henry and Barkley had to leave before they, got to that level with their new teams. I think that's a difficulty in building with that young running back. So, but no one is untradeable. Obviously, you would need some big returns for some of these guys, but I don't think that at all. The cap casualty front, again, the Braden Smith thing. If the Colts cut a guy for cap space in the next week, Eddie, would that be the first time they've really done that non-quarterback division under Ballard?
Probably. I can't think of any.
Like, no one jumps off the. I mean, you have some teams that cut a veteran every year for cap space, or more.
Was Ngakoue a cut, or was he a player that was not retained? They let him walk.
Got it. That's a good question. For some reason, I feel like he was a free agent, but I could be wrong on that. Not many, I guess, is the answer.
Right.
So,
Shaq?
Yeah, Shaq. Yeah. Good call. And again, that was as much as he just was a shell of himself. Obviously, the finances played into it, but still, let me be clear, Braden Smith's not Shaq Leonard.
No.
Like a healthy Braden Smith missed what, like one snap until the personal issue?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when healthy, he was, I still think he's a pretty good right tackle. Now, you can't ignore the injury history, can't ignore the age, et cetera, et cetera. But that one is still a huge one, man. Still a huge one. But, I keep on coming back to what we brought up earlier about just how the Colts have acted with Richardson. I mean, remember that offseason? Like, they traded Gilmore away. They said, see you, Stephon Gilmore. And, here's Isaiah McKenzie was like a big signing that offseason. I mean, I'm being serious here.
Yeah,
and,
I know you are.
And I don't want people to misconstrue this of saying the Colts should have gone after Debo. I'm not saying that. Although I do think Debo has had a little bit of better last couple seasons than maybe people think. But the whole general notion of the rookie contract is the time to be flexible is true. Ballard has said that, yet I've seen nothing that indicates their actions are different.
Yeah, I agree with you. Mayhew is next. In regard to the open competition at quarterback, the names that have been commonly mentioned have been guys like Justin Fields, Sam Darnold, and Daniel Jones, the latter of which makes me want to puke. However, there's also the thought that losing a quarterback competition in camp would be catastrophic for Anthony Richardson and would effectively put an end to his career in this current Colts era of football. I doubt the Steelers keep both Fields and Russell Wilson, and I've read that they'll likely lean towards Fields. What are your thoughts on bringing in Russell Wilson to be that, quote, arm around the shoulder, end quote, guy for Richardson? Granted, Wilson is willing to play that role on a team-friendly contract.
Mayhew said Daniel Jones is puke. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes.
I think you have a lot of people that would argue that's the most realistic name.
That's what Rich Eisen said yesterday.
And that's puke. And I don't disagree with Mayhew, to be honest with you. But
is it bad that I don't fully disagree?
Expand more.
I think Daniel Jones could be one of these other quarterbacks that revitalizes his career elsewhere.
Geno in Seattle, Baker
Darnold in Minnesota,
yeah.
Baker, and now in Tampa, because what has he had to work with?
Right. And again, I bring that up to say I think there are some more people in your camp, Eddie, than necessarily the puke camp. But for those in the I don't laugh at the people in the puke camp.
I don't either, for what it's worth.
It's way too much of the phrase puke camp. We probably should move on from that. I apologize. But, let me reiterate, you did not run it back for this. Go back to Bauer's answer on the 9th year. I mean, this was because of the Richardson win. His first healthy offseason, when he needs to improve fundamentals, you're going to bring him back in your building and you're going to say, hey, man, you'll get the reps on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And he'll get the reps on Wednesdays and Fridays.
Mm-hmm.
How do you drill that? How do you Buffalo wasn't doing that. So and then I guess on the Russell Wilson front, is that what Russell Wilson wants?
I think Russell ends up in Vegas.
Yeah. It's kind
if he doesn't go back to Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
It's weird. I think one of the two Steelers quarterbacks will end up in Vegas.
Yeah, and I would assume if I were Pittsburgh, I would do the re-sign of Steelers. If I would do the re-sign of Fields, but we'll see.
That's assuming Vegas doesn't try to trade up and get somebody they like if they liked one of the quarterbacks they met with here in Indianapolis at the Combine. 2 questions left. Philly Ocean, talk to me, KB. Who are you feeling up for the Colts at pick 14? I don't know how to say this guy's last name. Is a favorite for me of Tyler Warren or Malachi Starks.
Manowari?
Yes.
Maybe. I try to say it just loud and fast. And
is that the
South Carolina kid?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a little hair too high for me. I don't know. Sometimes with these Greek gods of safety, I'm kind of like, oh boy, I remember the days of Taylor Mays coming out of USC. Yeah, I go back to what I said to you, Eddie. Would you take the field or would you take the trench pick? If I presented that to you right now, I kind of like Starks. I mean, I know that he throws out if Warren or Starks aren't there. I kind of like more the deep field safety there with him.
I'm a big Xavier Watts guy.
Yeah, trust me, I love Xavier Watts, but at 14, it's just a little too high.
No, not at 14. I'm saying maybe the second round.
Yeah. I'll be interested because, testing-wise is not eye-popping with him, but he's just a ball player.
I think there's going to be... I love Loveland.
At 14?
Yeah. I don't know if at 14, that might be a little high. I could stomach it with Tyler. I don't know if I can stomach it with Colston.
Yeah.
Just because I think you can do a lot more things with Tyler Warren than you can with Colston Loveland. I mean, hell, Penn State was lining him up as a Wildcat quarterback in the backfield. Warren's probably... Or not Warren. Loveland is like your tight end that goes out and is like a wide receiver. In my eyes. I remember when Michigan came to Bloomington this year and almost pulled off the comeback against Indiana, and they were lining up Colston Loveland outside like he was their best receiver.
Right. And obviously he had quarterback play of you and me throwing him the ball this past year.
Yeah.
So would trading back be smart? I mean, it's just like I feel like I have so much scar tissue from it that like there's part of me is like doesn't want to see it, but then again it's like, well, if you present this and if you're going to rely on the tight end depth, et cetera, one of those defensive linemen, Ballard had to be foaming at the mouth watching Shamar Stewart work out, but then you look at the Texas A&M production and you're kind of like, oh boy. So I am probably in a Warren Starks. I can listen to Loveland as the receiver. Don't love the injury situation, but, as long as he's clear for training camp, I guess you're good there.
Is there anybody worth trading up for?
Well, I guess.
Other than Tyler Warren?
I was going to say, if you're obsessed with Warren. I don't know. I just don't see a lot of people like in that 6 to 10 range.
Would you trade up for either the Georgia edge rushers or Will Johnson?
Gosh, man, back-to-back years on the edge. It's such a premium position. I would never totally laugh at that, but it's difficult to do. The Will Johnson thing is interesting. Obviously, some people question how well he would test and run. Certainly, that is something that would not make Chris Ballard very happy. But, man, I just thought he was so smooth when he was playing. And corner's a tough one for me to peg. They love length, him and Anarumo. They both agree on that. But the press man, Ballard feels like the skill sets are still there on the roster. Are they or are they not? And this goes back to the Trey Hendrickson thing, Eddie. Trey Hendrickson is not here. Okay. How do you create pressure and sacks? Well, you have a defensive coordinator that's a little bit more open-minded to blitzing. Okay. If he then thinks they have to blitz more, doesn't that mean you need corners that you're more trusting to live on an island? Do you have those on the roster right now?
It's all good debate, banter.
Tremendous.
Yeah. Final questions from Drew. How likely is the, quote, open QB1, quote, remark, an effort to light a fire underneath Anthony Richardson, lest we not forget, took himself out of a game to motivate him, or is this a legitimate, quote, we're looking to cut our losses with the number 5 and just really want to win, quote, move?
Boy, I've seen so many people have different reactions to that quote. And like Drew laid out a few of them right here. I think it was frankly to send a message to open market quarterbacks camps more than anything. I cannot imagine a legitimate competition. And it's weird because I'm not saying that because I think Anthony Richardson has earned the right necessarily. But, I got scar tissue from the Band-Aids, man, and I don't want to put another Band-Aid on. So you try to give the high-end prospect one more chance. You give him all these reps with a healthy offseason. You've preached continuity. Like, Eddie, if you were this serious about, significant change, why did you bring back the same offensive coaching staff? Why is Shane Steichen calling the plays again?
Mm-hmm.
So those would all be questions that I would have on that front.
Got any big plans the rest of the week?
I did want to throw in one more thing. We got this from Kevin. I think listener Kevin. He I think listened to us after the Ballard interview, and he shared this, and I wanted to make sure that we touched on this. He goes, as someone who thought Ballard should have been gone 2 to 3 years ago, I'll say that I was ever so slightly encouraged by his tone in your interview with him. I'll believe that he's changed his somewhat antiquated, in my book, philosophical stripes when I see it. But reading between the lines, it sounds like he has at least a bit more sense of urgency. How that translates to actions and or aggressiveness in free agency and or the draft, we shall see. Kevin, thank you for the note. I would say this. Eddie, I think that's largely what I've been saying.
Mm-hmm.
Again, let me be very clear. Nothing on that resume deserves a 9th year. Listen to his answer about it. Listen to his answer on the greatest achievement. I think I've made my stance very obvious. But that general thought, while true and still there, it needs to transition, and I want to make sure that I've done that and continue to do it of okay, he's back. If he's coming back, what, if anything, will be different? And I have heard some difference. Now, I would push back on Kevin about the draft. I have not heard difference on the draft. I've heard difference more on free agency. And the next time we do a podcast, Eddie, hallelujah, we will actually have answers to talk about. So, I can't wait. What are you going to ask me? Sorry, I interrupted you before.
Got any plans this weekend?
Boy, it's Tuesday, and you're already talking about the weekend.
Or the rest of the week, I should say.
Nothing says we're old-ass individuals working jobs. What do I have this weekend? Well, let me pull up the calendar. Rosie's got dance on Sunday. I think we're going to go to a spaghetti dinner on nice. Rosie has dance on Saturday, spaghetti dinner on Sunday. Yeah, I can't say I got much, man. I got an annual physical coming up on Monday.
Good luck.
Thank you. That's about it, brother.
You got anything coming out on the website?
I just love March, man. I love March. Yeah, we'll do our 3rd mock draft look coming up this week. Always like to do that after the Combine. We see a lot of different mock drafts coming out. I've started to assemble a few of them. So far, a lot of variety. I think so far I've looked at 4 of them, 4 different players, 2 tight ends, an offensive lineman, and a corner. So I think you're a little, all over the place here with the Colts. How about you? You got some Pacers road games coming up.
That's right. Yep. Pacers play, today?
They're
Tuesday?
at Atlanta, aren't they, twice this weekend? Like a Thursday, Saturday, maybe?
Yeah. Yep.
So that's what Eddie Garrison has. Next week, Eddie, we're up in the air. If they're active on Monday, we'll come back Tuesday morning. If they're boring as hell on Monday, we'll come back Wednesday. And I don't really know.
Alrighty.
Play it by ear with us. Thank you for listening. Colts Corner, Kevin Bowen, Eddie Garrison signing off. See you.